Kiswahili. Okay, all right. So Zephania, I don't know where it is. He's coming. Okay, all right. Welcome.
Thank you so much. A warm welcome, first of all, to the people who are joining us online. We are so happy to have you. We are currently Girls Not Brides family. We are all gathered in the beautiful Limuru town. And to everyone here, it's been such a pleasure for me, first of all, to meet most of you. Those I've not yet talked to personally, we have 2.5 days to do that. So some of you I met yesterday, some of you I met 5 years ago, some people I met just now, and I feel that we are connected. We have the same objective, passion. My name is Nerida Ndamburi. I work with Girls No Brides. I'm the head of Africa Engagement, and I work both with a team in Africa as well as globally. So we are in, you'll see on the map shortly, we're across the world. And we work with one objective, which is ending child marriage. Girls No Brides is a global partnership of over 1,500 members, just like you, like most of you here, who have all voluntarily joined this collective of organizations and individuals, all working to, number one, prioritize the need to end child marriage. We have a goal of 0 child marriages in 1 generation. Can I hear an oh yeah? It's possible. That is our goal. That's what we work for every day, and that's what we know we'll achieve. So it's my pleasure today. I won't take so much time because for me, I think the key objective and what I'm excited, my expectations of this summit is, I'm not going to use the words I was not told not to use, but I think my key objective is to be challenged. What can I do more? Not only me as Nerida, but also as Girls Not Brides Secretariat. What can we do more? What aren't we doing enough? And hearing from you what are some of the challenges and opportunities that you have and where we can partner. So my pleasure this morning is to introduce the Girls Not Brides Partnership Strategy. You can go to the next slide, please. So what are our partnership strategies? I'll first start with introducing why Girls Not Brides. What is it for those of you who may not be aware? So as I said, we are really a collective of organizations, like-minded organizations that have come together with one aim in mind, which is ending child marriage. And we work to end child marriage in different ways. So we are diverse. We have organizations working on sexual reproductive rights, others working on services, others working on advocacy. Others don't even mention ending child marriage in their work, but the work they do actually serves to end child marriage. And I'll give an example. Some organizations that work on increasing girls' access to education. And we know research has found, and even in our own programming, that a girl staying longer in school often delays child marriage. So again, that's a positive consequence of their work. So we have also those members in our partnership. You can see from the beautiful map, I hope it's visible to everyone. I know online it's visible to you. So we are over 1,500 members. I think the last count is we're inching towards 1,600 members around the world. All our members are organizations. We have diverse organizations. We have community-based organizations. We have civil society organizations, NGOs, INGOs such as Plan, Save the Children, all working together and all in this group. In Africa, as you can see, we have the largest number of members. I should also say we also have one of the most vibrant membership in Africa. And the members in Africa work I think more intersectionally, I should say, so work on a variety of issues, linking ending child marriage as one of the things they are working to in their communities. And I think it's one of the most effective way of seeing change. You can go to the next slide, please. So as part of the membership, so I was going to just introduce, the membership in Africa. We have what we call, within our membership, we have individual members, so you sign up to be a Girls Not Brides member. Then we have what we call national partnerships, coalitions, and then general members. So a national partnership is a coalition or a collective that has decided in each country they're going to join up. A very good example is here in this room, Girls Not Brides Uganda, which is one of our oldest national partnerships. The newest kid on the block, Girls Not Brides Kenya, which recently became our national partnership. We have very strong coalitions, the Tanzania Ending Child Marriage Network, which is also one of our oldest coalitions. The coalitions and national partnerships work exactly the same way. The only difference is the national partnerships have signed an official MOU or Memorandum of Understanding with the Secretariat to pursue certain shared objectives through the year. We work with coalitions as well, very much the same way. With the Tanzanian coalition, we've been working really well over the last, I would say, almost 2 years in implementing a joint project. The same thing with Kenya and Uganda. As I said, in Africa, we have now over 900 member organizations. I think that the growth is astounding in Africa. It grows quite fast. And the countries highlighted is the countries in which we are most active. And by we, I mean our national partnerships, our coalitions, and our members. Please go ahead. And I should say the Girls No Brides is coordinated by a secretariat. Our secretariat is spread across the globe. So we have secretariat members based in Nairobi, myself and a couple of my colleagues, Sharon and Nolene, and a couple of colleagues who are not here. We have also secretariat members based in other countries in Africa. We have secretariat members based in Latin America and the Caribbean, in Mexico, in Delhi for our Asia team colleagues, and in London. So our our partnership strategy, you have this document in your folders for the participants who are in person. If you have time later, I would really encourage you to read this. So this particular document, partnership strategy, is not something that was created by us sitting in the Secretariat. This actually came out of almost 2 years of conversations with our members, with you. And we were listening to you and saying, so what do we need to do as Girls No Brides? Girls No Brides, we recently celebrated 10 years. Our 10-year birthday was very recent. And we wanted to find out, look, for 10 years, this is what we set out to achieve. We set out to prioritize ending child marriage at the global level, at the national level, and in communities. We set out to bring together communities that were working with the same goal so that we can share resources, we can share technical ability, expertise, we can trade stories and see what is happening, how can we work together. So for the next after 10 years, then what next? So we listened to our members. We listened also to other people who are not, or other organizations that are not members, but are working in the same space. Stakeholders is what we call them. We got them together for a series of conversations, a series of brainstorming back and forth, and we finally came up with our partnership strategy, which I'll very quickly go through. So for us, the key thing about partnership is collective action. At Girls Not Brides, that is it. That is what we breathe, we eat every day. And at the back of this partnership strategy is a quote I love. It says, "We are more effective when we work together." And so as a partnership, that's the whole partnership strategy is about how do we work together more effectively. We have new challenges that we didn't have 10 years ago. How can we address them together? So one of the things we had from our members, maybe if you go back, Sharon, thank you, is that we need to work faster. Even here today I was hearing, why aren't we seeing a significant reduction in child marriage in my community, in our communities? So we need to, if you go ahead, one more. We need to work faster. We need to work more effectively. We need to see greater impact to our ways of working. And we also had that, if you go back, sorry. We also had that we are more effective when we work together. We had that we need to support community-based organizations more. Community-based organizations, in some people call them local organizations, is where change happens. Where does change happen? At the communities. And so this support for community-based organizations, local organizations, communities themselves, and community leaders, community members, girls, is where change will happen. And we have been working very hard to actually see how we can continue to support our members to implement this. And we know that communities are also underfunded, community-based organizations, local organizations, especially now with COVID. And so one of our key tasks is how do we increase awareness on the need for funds to go to these communities that are bringing the most change, or where the most change is felt. And if you read through the strategy, and as I go through, we have several initiatives or objectives that we hope to achieve with collectively. Next slide, please. So we have under our new partnership strategy, what we call 6 shared goals. These goals are working with communities, prioritizing communities, seeing that change happens in communities, of course, working with governments. Governments we've had is one of the most effective way, and I'm glad we have government representatives from some of the countries, is how do you ensure sustained change? How do you ensure that they support for that change you want to happen? How are we also linking our work? In Tarime, in Migori, in Samburu, I've just been hearing places named in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. How are we linking our work to the global community? Are they aware of what we're doing and how change is happening in our communities, so that we are sharing these lessons globally? We know child marriage is a global problem. It just doesn't happen in Africa. Child marriage is in every single country in the world. It's a challenge. So how are we able to share our work, and what avenues do we have to share our work, our opportunities, our challenges, and our successes? What works? And then, of course, funding, which is a big thing, as I said. And it's just not this sector that's underfunded. I think we're seeing generally, especially in certain sectors that are dealing with community-based organizations or gender empowerment, it's relatively underfunded. So how do we increase donor commitments to our sector? How do we increase the awareness that this sector needs to be funded? How are we also in our communities and our countries, how are we holding our governments to account so that those commitments they make at the AU, at the UN, they actually come back to our countries and they put a budget on that? How are our own governments funding their communities, their commitments rather, and how are we as civil society holding them to account? And then evidence and learning, this is very important. And I think for us in the Africa region, we are putting this as a priority because we know a lot of what is happening at the communities has such a great impact, and is doing a lot, not only to reduce child marriages, but also to change perceptions and attitudes over time. And a lot of this amazing information sometimes may not be documented and shared. So how can we start to document this knowledge that we have as practitioners, as researchers? We also know we have researchers as part of the movement. And how are we sharing this? What evidence can we share? But also, how are you using, and by you personally and your organizations, how are you using evidence that is out there to inform your work? How are you planning your interventions? Do you say, oh, I'm just going to go to this community, but are you aware of some of the underlying things that you may need to know so that you can effectively reach? So it's one thing that we hope to publicize, and I'll just throw in a small request to all of you. If you go onto the Girls Not Brides page, we have a new initiative called the Africa Action Group to End Child Marriage, which brings together researchers and practitioners such as us and puts us in a space to start to, number one, publicize places that things that need more research, but also publicize the existing data that we already have in our programs. And we hope that by sharing this information, it's just not sitting in Kenya, we can share it with Malawi. It's just not sitting in Tanzania. Tanzania, you can talk to Benin, you can talk to Burkina Faso and share some of the lessons learned. And then one of the 6 goal is partnership. So this is us, Girls Not Brides Kenya, Girls Not Brides Uganda, Tanzania Ending Child Marriage Network. We have other Girls Not Brides coalitions and partnerships across the world, in Africa as well. So how are we, number one, bringing you together? How are we sharing lessons? This is one of the key things. But in our countries as well, in our partnerships, how are we bringing, I would say, organizations that may not be traditionally, we may not traditionally think as partners, are we working with them? For example, I'll challenge you. Are you working, because for us funding of these initiatives and interventions is a big thing, especially government support. Are you reaching out to organizations that work on budgeting? in your countries? Are you reaching out to organizations that work on gender equality? Because we know child marriage is actually rooted in gender inequality. So just a challenge to all of us, not just you, but also to us. Are we getting the more business unusual people within our partnership and making a stronger partnership? Next slide. So because the next session is really, for me, is one of the most useful and interesting, is where we'll be hearing from the countries themselves, and we'll have representatives of each country talking about, so the movement to end child marriage in your country, how has it been? How did it come across? How did you develop it, and what are some of the challenges? So I won't go through, I won't finish this presentation, Sharon, but if you go towards the end, I think my key message, and I noted it down, which was a really, thank you, was it Wanjiro Wamboi who brought it up? Are your communities ready to change, to abandon child marriage and FGM? And I would add on to that, then what can you do to make them ready to change? You as Girls Not Brides Kenya, as Girls Not Brides Uganda, as the Tanzanian Ending Child Marriage Network, what can you do? That's the reason we came together, right? To see change. So for us, communities are the real drivers of change, as I said before. And with that, I'll end my presentation here, and I'm going to invite Koshuma, Moses, and Viola and Lanoi to join me here. And we're going to be hearing straight from the partnership itself, our partnership, what they're doing in their countries. Karibuni sana, welcome. I'll ask that any online participants, please do put down any questions you want to note in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll take your question. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. So it's a pleasure. I'm sitting in such a high-level panel, but I'm not powerful enough. So thank you so much for joining us. I'll first maybe take a round of introduction. I'll ask you each to introduce yourself. You can say your name, the partnership or country you're representing, and then we'll go into the questions. So I'll start from my far left. Viola, you can start. Does she have you can share the mic. Oh, there's a mic.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel. Thanks, Nerida, for this invitation. I am Viola Ruto and I work for Amref Health Africa.
Thank you, Viola.
Thank you very much. I'm Koshuma Mtengeti from Children's Meet Tanzania. CDF is Secretary of Tanzania and the Child Marriage Network.
Thank you. Very welcome, Koshuma. Viola, you forgot to say she is representing Girls Not Brides Kenya as well. Let's go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Lanoi Mpoke, working for Plan International, and I'm also a co-convener in the Girls Not Brides Kenya.
Thank you, Lanoi.
Yeah, Moses Intenga, and I work with Joy for Children, which is also the host of Girls Not Brides in Uganda.
Great. Thank you so much. So these are the representatives of the three, as I said, we work in coalitions, we work collectively. So these are the four elected co-coordinators of our national partnerships and coalitions in this region. So I'll start off by asking each of you, you are movement builders, and I'll challenge you, what does the Ending Child Marriage movement mean in your country, without repeating what we had spoken about in the earlier session? And how did this movement come to be in Uganda, in Kenya, in Tanzania? What inspired you?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think for me, we'll start with the question, what inspired us? I think one of the things that we had a number of meetings, I think at the onset of Girls Not Brides, I think we were invited in South Africa to brainstorm about ending child marriage in Africa on the continent. It was more brainstorming, what do we need to do? And we were invited then by Greg Marshall Trust. And it was a very good, inspiring meeting, because unlike what we're doing in our communities, we realize that there are other people that are concerned about ending child marriage. And so what we discussed there, and we had the movement was in London, and we said they think we need to do this at home because there are more cases of child marriage in our own countries compared to those that were I think in the global north. And so from that meeting, because they were asking us what can we do as a continent. So it was the putting power in our hands. It's us to solve the problem. But also we came in from the point of you need to work with others. And so when we went back in my country, I was able to mobilize others because I knew it would take more than one organization to tackle issue of child marriage because it is widespread in different areas and no one can get it because of different language challenges, issues of context in different communities. And so we had to mobilize a number of other civil society organizations to be able to be part of the movement. Of course, by nature of the movement, like you want to get some people that will subscribe to what you want to address and move forward with it. And for us, that's the message we picked, and we continue moving that. Currently, we have more than 100 members scattered across the country and working to end child marriage.
And I'll come back to you. I'm going to ask you, how do you get to 100 members from this meeting? Is it 7 years ago you had the meeting, or I can't remember. But we'll come back to you. But moving to Lanoy and maybe Viola, you can also come in. Girls Not Brides Kenya, the newest kid on the block. Why?
Yeah, so we started off as End Child Marriage Network Kenya. And the reason that we felt that we needed to come together to work on child marriage is because we had stakeholders working on child marriage, everyone doing their own things. We had resources with the individual organizations, but we felt that if we come together, we will be able to bring the resources together, we will be able to bring the expertise we have and even the numbers that we have so that we can all amplify our voices and bring an end to child marriage in the country. So that is, those are some of the reasons that made us come together, and also to ensure that there is proper coordination, because we felt that each organization was, for example, doing their own research. Probably the research is not utilized, but we felt that if we come together, if there is any piece of work on child marriage that is done, then we will be able to consume it as a partnership and be able to address any challenges or child marriage and even FGM in the country. So those are some of the reasons why we came together. And currently we are over 60 members in the partnership, all the way from the national level to the communities. And that is also another strength that we felt. Child marriage happens in the community. So if we are only at the national level, how do we bring or bridge the gap between the communities and the national level? So working together, then we were able to bring out the issues happening at the community level all the way up to the national level where policies are made.
Absolutely. Very strong, he said. Koshuma, talk us through Tanzania.
Asante sana. Actually, in Tanzania, it started different. We had a national consultative meeting on ending child marriage in 2007, which was supported by Forward UK. And we are very much glad that Nana is here who supported that meeting. And during the meeting, we had a number of strategies on how to end child marriage, and should be taken into consideration that at that particular time, organization like Forward had already worked on child marriage for quite some times, but for Tanzania it's quite new. I remember even during that meeting, we were discussing a number of things, and some people were like children getting married, while we have that kind of a high child marriage in Tanzania. So after the meeting, one of the resolutions of the meeting was to conduct research, a survey to understand the issue around child marriage. And we managed to conduct a survey in 4 districts in Tanzania. But what came out of that survey was very much clear that child marriage is somehow very complicated. And as CDF, it was very difficult for us to work alone on ending child marriage. So in 2010, we said that if we need to end child marriage, we need a number of organizations to come together. And then there was a meeting where 12 members organization were very much interested to join the efforts. And in 2011, we were invited in South Africa. I think it's the first time I met Moses there with and the elders, Desmond Tutu, Grasa Machel. And then 2012, there was another meeting that Moses was talking about, which we discussed a number of things on child marriage. And when we came back to Tanzania, now we set up the network formal, again, we are glad that we got the support from the Forward UK to set up the network in 2012. And what now sustained that movement was very, there was a number of chronological events. At the same 2012, we had a high-level meeting in Tanzania discussing child marriage, where actually Graça Machel managed to address that meeting via conference. So there was that kind of momentum and movements on child marriage in Tanzania. And 2013, we managed to convene the first East African Conference on ending child marriage, where a number of countries participated. More than 12 countries in Tanzania, in Africa participated. There was participants from Europe and America. And then from that meeting now, we learned a lot. There are a number of policy contexts. We understand the regional dynamics, the global context on child marriage, and there was that kind of movement to African Union. I remember a number of representatives from other countries were presenting a number of issues. So in Tanzania, we got that kind of momentum, and then the network started growing from 12 members. Members keep on increasing. But again, in 2014, also UNFPA joined the movement. We had a national child marriage campaign under the Ministry of Health and Community Development, and that campaign actually bring a lot of momentum within the country. So we continue with a number of movements. I remember Graça Machel visited Tanzania 3 times discussing child marriage under the elders. But again, what is also very important to mention is also the support from the GNB to keep up the movement in Tanzania. Girls Not Brides have supported a number of local and regional and international meetings where a number of members from Tanzania Child Marriage Network participated, which actually when they come back, they come with a different knowledge, different learnings, want to share, want to grow from the meetings, like important meetings like the SADC model law, but we attended a number of meetings in London, India, a number of them in Africa. And so all of this sustained that kind of a movement in Tanzania. And now we are from 12 members, we're now more than 70 members, different thematic areas, and very strong.
Thank you. So it's really, for me, fascinating to hear how it starts from idea. You go for a meeting and you decide, you know what, come back to my country, I can't do it alone. One of you said, so let's band together. To all of you, and maybe I'll start with Viola, what has been the 2 things you think working in a coalition, in your coalitions, has brought a change to the movement? What has your impact been, just 2?
I would want to say the partnership provides, real-time learning because we are united in our WhatsApp forum. So through that, we are able to communicate and even at some point, communicate some kind of rescue or some, how to reach out. And the other thing is, for the Kenya partnership, we are divided into several regions. So there's the North Rip and all that. So it provides that opportunity to work together, even in the grassroots level, and to, pull our efforts together. So those are the areas I feel are impactful. So the continuous engagement and working together is key. And I know we've not reached there for the, the Kenya partnership, but I feel like we are going to be far by the end of the year because we've started recently, but the focus we have is greater. Yeah.
Great to hear. Moses, with Uganda, what some of the impact you've seen by Girls Not Brides, Uganda working together?
Yeah, I think one of the first thing I think is very stands out that when we came out as Girls Not Brides initially, even the government couldn't allow that there was child marriage because we had the minister saying we don't have child marriage in Uganda. So we continued pushing, and then the government was able to agree to draft the national strategy to end child marriage, where we're part and we're involved in those initial stages and up to the implementation. And so for me, I think that as Girls Not Brides Uganda, we've been able to maintain the momentum that child marriage is an issue, to keep it on the platform. And maybe even more recently when there was COVID everywhere, and we had that very good support where people were talking about the numbers of the cases of COVID. For us, we kept in with the cases of child marriage. But also we're able to really work with the media to really push out which numbers of girls are being married or pregnant around that time. And so for me, I think Girls Not Brides Uganda has been able to to be one that pushes, and also government comes to us if they need anything around the issue of child marriage. And so I really think that some of the progress we have seen within the country, Girls Not Bride has really had a very strong hand, of course, with other players like Plan and UNICEF and the rest. But I think, as given the numbers, we have been very much instrumental, including, of course, our annual Girls Summit that we normally have. We have seen a lot of actions happening there and interest. And of course, recently, Girls Not Bride will also sit on the national committee on the campaign to end child marriage that is run by the government. Yeah, thanks.
How about Lanoi, please go ahead, and then I'll ask Koshuma as well.
Okay, so I think for me, what the impact that I have seen is we have been able to really benefit from the technical expertise from the members, because you will find in the partnership you have members who are good in advocacy, others are research organizations, so we are able to benefit from the skills that are within the partnership. So that has really been of benefit to the members. And also we have been able to engage policymakers, probably something as an individual organization would not be that easy. But as a partnership, we have been able to engage different policymakers and are still in conversation to address some of the issues that will help us to address child marriage in the country.
Thank you for that. Follow-up question before you hand over to Koshuma. Is it then more effective to engage policymakers as a group rather than one individual organization? Is that one of the strengths?
Yes, it is, because at the end of the day, we are all looking at this girl. We are all working towards ending child marriage, and we are all working towards probably having a policy in place on child marriage. So if we all go together to those policymakers, then we will even make life easier and the process becomes even faster. So working together helps us have the, even the voice to influence and to ensure that whatever we want is taken into consideration.
Thank you for that. Very clear. Koshuma?
Yes, I think one of the thing which is very, very much strong for the Tanzanian Child Marriage Network is the issue of having a collective voice, which actually has been there for quite some times, but very important to know who to champion which agenda in a particular situation. For instance, I remember when there was an issue of shrinking space in Tanzania, and we know that any organization who could raise a certain topic will be banned, then it was easy to navigate through channeling issue through the network. For instance, there's one time we wanted to issue a statement on re-entry police, and then we took it to the Tanzania Women Lawyers Association, which we know all the lawyers, they are members, including the ministers. So it's easy, it's difficult to ban that one, instead of going through CDF. So having that kind of collective voice is one of the impact. But again, what is so very important is the issue of making sure that all members understanding their mandates, their responsibilities, and the full engagement, and to make sure that child marriage become a national agenda. When this topic started in Tanzania, very few organizations were looking at it like, how are we going to address it? But now we can see almost 70 members, they do address child marriage in a different way. Some of them, they are not working particularly in child marriage, but they know child marriage is an issue. And whenever there's an issue, the issue of child marriage came up.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to ask a bit of a hard question to all of you, maybe a bit of a challenging one. So you're all working with different organizations, different diversities, all with one goal. I've heard, and thank you for sharing some of the impacts that your work has brought, successes, or the strengths in working together. We are working to end child marriage. We are called girls, not brides. Where are the girls in your movement? How do you position them? Where are the young people? Who wants to go first?
I have the mic. Yeah, there are a number of ways that we're working with the girls. Number one, for instance, the coalition, we do have a number of youth-led organizations, and we do have a number of organizations that solely have the young women inside. But again, at the individual organization, talking for instance for the CDF, one of our big programs is on girls empowerment. And up to now, we are working with more than 20,000 girls, a number, particularly those who are affected by child marriage, teenage pregnancy, and violence. And one of the approach is to make sure that, and one of our core value is the voices and participation, and making sure all of this knowledge come to the center and informing our program. So we do have all the things that are facing girls, and we are discussing with them on how to deal with it. And we are having one approach that we are using in our organization. It's called peer research, which actually is adopted and from one university in UK, and facilitated much by Forward. In peer research, you are working with the hard-to-reach communities. You are getting the information. And after getting the information, it's easy to ask a girl to go and consult another girl who's affected with that, and you get that kind of information. They have their facilitators, and then you take that information. So you get the first-hand information on what girls are facing at their actual environment. So by taking that, you get the voice and the feelings and everything that they face girls, and then you take them into a number of process up to the police and programming and everything. So the girls are the center of our programs.
Thank you so much. Viola?
So, in addition to what he has said, I believe the girls are our focus at the end of the day, and the girls are in the communities where we work with. So, first of all, apart from having the youth-led organizations which are operating in our areas, we also, through individual organization, we work with the girls in the communities through even the school health clubs, then, the youth advocates who now, like, for example, in Samburu and even Marsabit, we have the youth advocates, which is a youth network. And it's also supported by, one of our members is the Young Youth Anti-FGM Network, and through that consortium, they have been able to engage us to form youth networks in the other counties where we come from. And though the work has not, I can say it's ongoing, but for now, I am sure of Samburu and Marsabit, I had Kajiado. So through that forum, and Young is part of the network, we are also able to engage the youth. But we listen to the youth in the community dialogues, in the schools where they are, and we ensure that the youth are able to talk and voice their issues, because that is the key thing. When the youth are able to open up and voice issues, then they can come to us and we are able to, respond. We are not supposed to respond through our own, our own thinking or our own experiences, but through the voices of the youth. So I think that is important, and just empowering the youth that they themselves can stop FGM and can stop child early marriages. That is so key. And these youth, some of them have been able to overcome the challenges. So when they go to the social media and when they go to the forums where they're able to speak up to other girls, which some of the organizations, the network, individual organizations also empower the youth to reach to other youth and to reach to the younger girls. I think that is key, and that is where we are going to end child marriage. And just by putting girls, providing them with the opportunity to transition from, for example, primary to the scholarship programs, and empowering them, through mentorship programs to ensure that they're able to complete. We lose youth, and the girls and the youth, generally you lose them from class 5. In those regions where you come from, through child early marriage, through FGM, through school dropout. So if we are able to transition them, not only to reach class 8, but also through high school, and not to end in high school. What we are saying is that girls should not get married after Form 4. That is not the end. We want them to gain the skills that they are able to achieve their ambition, achieve aspirations, become inspirations to the communities where they come from. So these transitions is very key. So thank you very much.
So thank you so much. Very important what you've said, so that I don't lose it. The transition phase is extremely important. And something you said struck me, the voices of the youth. And to all of you, do you have youth members that can go to the Minister of Gender in your countries, to the President, and actually represent Girls Not Brides, Kenya, Uganda, and the Tanzania coalition? Do you have they done it?
Yes, I think for the young, for example, the young, they were even awarded last year for exemplary work by His Excellency the President to the the Ministry of Gender Social Services. Yeah, so it's something that has happened, and the youth are speaking up.
Great to hear. Moses and Lanoy, you want to say something to that before I go on to the next? And then we'll go to the plenary and take questions.
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to mention that in addition to what they have said, we have youth advocates that work with the different member organizations. And these are young people who have been empowered with skills and knowledge around advocacy and leadership and other issues that affect them so that they can be able to engage with policymakers at the different levels. So yes, we have girls at the center of our partnerships and we are engaging them. And I am aware that we are even working towards creating platforms for these young people to be able to engage in policy work. Whenever policies are being developed, what do they feel about the policies? Because many a times we are there speaking on their behalf, but what do they feel about what we are saying? So that is probably work in progress, and we hope to strengthen that as we continue to grow in our partnerships.
Thank you so much. Moses?
Yeah, for me, I think I want to start by saying that within our steering committee, we have a youth representative, and she's here, Sharon, attending with us, and she brings in a very critical voice, and I thought that's one way we can really have that happen.
So we can ask Sharon if she's effectively leading.
Yes, okay. Yes, she's there, and her organization still also does the coordination of the youth cluster. We also have great group town members, and they have youth cluster. But also, I think what also is very central to us is that that we always plan and target to keep empowering the young people. During 2020, we did train some of the youth. We did train the youth into advocacy, I think about 11. But also, we didn't stop at training, we also gave them some funds to go in the community. And the whole rationale was, can these youth go in the field and know what exactly is happening? What are these kind of child marriages that are there? What are the girls saying? What's working, what's not working? And so we wanted to really put power into their hands and know exactly what is happening on the ground. But also what I should also mention, I think we need to be deliberate as networks on training the youth and girls at the center. The youth is progressive. You find today you have youth, then they grow and they become something else, adults. And so I think periodically, I think annually or after 2 years, I think we need to identify some of these young people that we can train and empower so that we don't say we trained 5 years ago and those are no longer probably even within our space. But I think there should be, I think if we are to keep them still within our networks, then we must have a very dedicated program. I think using the toolkit that we have, that we think annually, whichever period that we agree on, keep training and recruiting young people to be able to speak for these issues. And some of us, we are aging. As we're aging, then we need to find some more young people really to speak for these issues. And even times are changing. The issue that we had before, they couldn't be the times now. So if we continue having young people movement, bring more young people in the movement, I think will ensure sustainability of our country.
So thank you so much, all of you. So what I hear for me from this very important question is, how do we ensure our movement, we're not speaking on behalf of these young people, of the girls? How are we ensuring that we are allowing their voices to be heard, their concerns, their challenges? How are we also, equipping them with capacities to also do this? How are we supporting them? How are we working and to link them with leadership, with elders, so that the elders can hear, look, this young girl is saying this, and they're able to communicate effectively. I would also say, really important, I love the fact of, we don't want a lost generation. We're losing them somewhere, the risk. So how are we able to plug those holes? So quickly, before I go to the audience, and also on online audience, very quickly, in less than 5 words, each of you, what is the one thing your coalitions needs to do to accelerate progress to end child marriage? In very few words.
I think for me, we need to focus more on the grassroots work.
Focus on the grassroots.
Yeah.
Uganda.
Yeah,
No.
strengthen our structures and also resource mobilization for the partnership.
Strengthen structures, that's the structures of the coalition.
From the
from the ground,
community,
from the
all
community
the
up,
way. Yeah.
and resource mobilization.
Yes.
Thank you. That's Kenya.
Linking child marriage with the pro-poor and economic policies.
Linking child marriage with
Pro-poor policies, economic
poor
policies.
economic policies. Thank you, Tanzania. Kenya part 2.
It's to strengthen our working together and to raise our voice as a partnership.
So collective voicing,
Yes.
collective action. Thank you so much. Any questions? Do we have any questions online? Or any questions from here? Please feel free. Raise up your hand and the mic will come. Yes, we have one on my left. Do say your name, both so that the online participants would know who's speaking.
Part and parcel of that curriculum. Oh, I'm not being heard. Yes. I hope I don't have to repeat. Anyway, so I was saying, talking about systems, just like the government, if the government gives a system that would ensure propelling what has been put in place to forge ahead so that there's nothing like going back on what has already
Recording in
been put down or
progress.
laid down, then it would be good. And I was giving the example of Kenya. There's an organization that was working closely with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development to ensure that their policies, the curriculums, they're called one, the curriculum has that what is expected to be instilled within the children as they grow up, so that then they grow up knowing that FGM should not be part and parcel of me. Child marriage should not be part and parcel of me. So the children grow up knowing, because that has been systemized within the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mildred. Very strong. We had a question here, and then I'll also ask us to read a question or allow an online participant. Oh, great. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Isabuda from Green Community Initiatives, Shinyanga, Tanzania. So the question goes to panelists from Uganda and Kenya. What is the space for traditional healers and religious leaders in fighting child marriage? So that is the question. And also, I would give a comment or addition to the discussion. I'm trying to think of what we call intergenerational dialogue, which brings together religious leaders, traditional healers, youth, women, and children. If at all that is given weight in the discussion, in doing our work, it can ease the fight for child marriage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we want to answer the questions, or we'll just take the questions and do a round? So panelists from Uganda and Kenya, please note that question. We'll take, let's take one question from online and then we'll come back to you. Okay, you can read out the online question.
Thank you so much, our online viewers. I know that we received some comments and questions. I'm going to take one question from Majinjach Festo. So he's asked a question: how is GNB going to help organizations working in the communities to secure sustainable funding opportunities to prevent and address the effects of child marriages?
All right, thank you so much for that. So we'll take one more and then we'll do the answers.
This is just a supplement on how we can end child marriage. In my observation, this is Sedo, Mumuza Isa from Sedo, Uganda, there is increasing on awareness because we know these young girls, boys, men and women, they are aware, but not fully. So we need to increase on awareness, sensitization on how the marrying off of these young girls is a danger to these young girls. We also need to put sustainability measures which are there to stay so that these girls don't do what? Don't continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So let's take the answers and then we'll do another round of questions. So the first question was to the panelists from Kenya and Uganda. Religious and traditional leaders, how are you including them in their work?
I think he has mentioned there is the intergenerational dialogues, and we've learned that it works in the Kenya partnerships for ending FGM and child marriage, and we already had we have a success. Many successes. I can actually not say from one community. We put elders, the top clan elders or elders at the center of our discussion, where we ensure that we reach, like in Kenya, most communities, we have the tiers or hierarchies of elders. We say we have the lower level or middle level, then we have the top clan elders, who are the key decision makers. And so for you to change, for any change to happen around FGM and child marriage, you need to have a respectful engagement with them, and that is where we have the dialogues. We've been able to work with the anti-FGM board to reach out to the top clan elders. And for, let's say for West Pokot, I think last year we had a declaration of top clan elders from West Pokot. I can't remember others, but also from Samburu, where we had what you call Kisima Declaration, and His Excellency the President presided over that declaration to end child marriage, FGM in the Samburu community. So it's something that is at the key and at the center of our work. Currently, we are working with Waithaka, who is a member of the Kenyan team, the Each Right team, to be able to reach out other communities in the northern parts of this country. So as a partnership, we are also trying to see which strengths we have, where are we working, can we pull our resources together, and can we do this together, and bring on board the county government and the anti-FGM board, who are mandated to end child marriage and FGM in these communities. So it's something that has, gained momentum in our country.
Thank you so much, Viola. Moses, do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, I think, yes, I think for us, we know that tradition and religious leaders take a very big space within our country, and they influence a lot of issues, especially those social and cultural issues. They are much, and given that we have kingdoms that are still active within our countries, then they also have a number of people that follow them. So what we have done as a partnership is start conversation around. I've had a couple of meetings with different kingdoms for us to be able to have some collaboration around issues of ending child marriage. And I think it's some work we're still following up and then finally would lead into MOUs of cooperation, but also we'll see how we can support each other at different space. But also during our National Girls Summit that we have every year, there is part of the people who to either be part of the panels or discuss or see what really goes on. And I think even beyond that, I think we need to see other players like the media as well, people who influence the public opinion. I think we need ways to bring them on board because they also shape the conversations and also the direction of things. So on our part, I think we are very cognizant that they play a very big role and always work with them and keep them close to us.
And I like the last part you've all said. So religious and traditional leaders, as champions of ending child marriage in their communities. You've talked about media, which I think is a key part, and not just media to use them to to amplify your voice, but are they part of the partnership? Are the traditional religious leaders, are they part of your coalitions or national partnerships in your country? Even where they've been formalized, can they be members? So something maybe I'm challenging you to think about, because I think they're such a strong voice. I'll answer the question that was raised by the online participants, and we'll come back to another round of questions. I think a question about funding, if I'm not wrong, funding community-based organizations. Yes, which again, as we said, as part of our strategy as Girls Not Brides, it's a key issue that we want to amplify. Girls Not Brides, we're not a funder per se, so we're not a donor, but what we do, because we're a partnership, we can raise awareness on increased funding for the thematic area we work on, for ending child marriage. As part of what we do as a secretariat also, we offer all our members resources. If you go to our website, we'll share the link. We always publicize what resources and what funding is available. We do assist technically if you want technical assistance in drafting proposals or how to reach a certain funder. Please do reach out to any of us at the secretariat. We'd all be happy to help. And we also strive as much as possible to connect development partners, funders, partners, to especially our civil society members working in countries, those working in communities. And we do this through a variety of ways. We do introductions, we host meetings such as this. So do continue looking out for those opportunities. Do reach out to any of us at the Secretariat if you do want more information on that. And thank you for that question. There was another question, a round of questions. There's a question here, there's one on this side. We'll take a couple, we'll take about 4 and then do another round. Thank you. John, I think there's questions on that side. Thank you.
Yes, it's better. Yes.
I think mine is a supplement on the issue of cultures. We need to have a collective responsibility by signing, I think, an MOU between the implementers and these cultural leaders. We need also to have a strengthening methods towards the involvement of all stakeholders, be it a boy, a girl, all the women and the men, so that we see it is sustainable for ending a girl-child marriage at a 0 level. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think there's behind. Is there any online questions as well? You can, okay.
Thank you very much. I think what I want to ask all of you, the panelists, it's really about documentation. And I think that's one area that we all fall short of. And I'd like to ask more about how you're documenting your work and your learning, because that really enables us all to share equally and effectively. The other area I want to ask is challenges. Movement building always comes with challenges, and I'd like to hear a little bit about your challenges and how you're addressing them. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, me being the youth representative, Girls Not Brides Uganda, my question still will be about the youth. And this goes to Girls Not Brides Kenya. Well, apart from advocacy, dialogue, where you involve the leaders, the local leaders, the traditional leaders, what have you done to effectively involve the youths in ending child marriage? Because we are talking about leaders, but I'm not hearing about the youths. What are some of the activities that you have put up to involve the youths? Because they are the ones that are being affected more. Actually, not more, but they are the ones that are being affected. So what have you done to involve the youths in ending child marriage? Thank you.
I think there was one more. Yes, thank you.
My name is Kenneth Odari from Kenya. My question goes to the gentleman from Tanzania. I think you mentioned something to the effect that you had some engagement at the SADC level. Perhaps it would be useful just to get a brief view of how this engagement happened and what has really what is happening currently. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any online question, or we can go directly? Sharon?
Sharon, any online questions?
Any online questions?
Yes.
or as you're reading, I think we can start answering. So the first question I think we can, for all panelists, is challenges. Well, we'll start with documenting. How are you documenting the work, both at collective level, but also your individual member organizations? Where are we at with that? The next question for you all to answer as well is challenges of movement building. Please talk about them. You've talked about your impact, your successes, your hopes. Movement building is not easy. We know that. It's challenging. It's rewarding, but it's challenging. So maybe you can also speak a bit about that. And then we'll go to the question that has just been raised about the youth and the SADC. So, but let's start with the first documentation. Who wants to go first? Mike was moved.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Nana, for these critical questions. It's a fact. Documentation is very challenging, and we are struggling with it, particularly documenting the learnings and doing that. But we have tried, with the support from different actors, to document the learnings from Tanzanian Child Marriage Network. And we do have a report for 10 years success on Tanzania Child Marriage Network. But I can say it's something that we are struggling with. It's not like we are doing that much. We are doing a lot of work, but putting it into documentation is somehow very, very challenging. And it's one of the areas that we need really to strengthen. Yeah, and the issue of challenge, I can mention three. One of it is very much clear. We can hear all of us here mentioning the issue around resource. Resource constraint is a very challenging area. So we need to see how we can mobilize resource. We know child marriage, it's a rampant challenge in our country. So how do we work on ending it? And we are not getting any financial support from the government. So we are depending on donor. That's one of the challenge. But when it's come to the movement building, there are a number of challenges like self-interest of the members. That's a serious challenge. You find some of the members, they would like to get more credibility than other members while we are speaking on the same voice, the collective voice. The issue around visibility, the work can be done by all of the network, but one member decides to document and go to the media and say this is the work of Joy for Children, yeah, and not all the members. That kind of a credit, yeah. Yeah, that's a serious challenge. So how are we going to work on that collective voice? But again, in Tanzania particularly, we still have a issue of a political will, particularly on amendment of the law. We can see that child marriage is a national agenda. Everybody is talking about child marriage, but the issue around even the court has decided that. And when you go to court, you can hear the judges talking about that. But the politicians, and a few of them, not all of them, they are still reluctant in terms of changing of the law. On the issue of SADC model law, actually we had a number of meetings on SADC model law, particularly on the designing and redesigning on it. One of the meetings was supported by JNB in Lesotho, Swaziland. And a number of parliamentarians from Tanzania also attended that one. And that was the law in terms of how we are going to end child marriage in SADC region. And the issue was to take that and come to replicate or adopt in our countries, particularly in Tanzania. And there was another meeting actually in Zambia or Malawi, if I'm not mistaken. But in Tanzania, the development is clear that a number of parliamentarians who went there, they come back to Tanzania and they try to work that through the parliament. And when you talk about child marriage in our parliament, we can say it's somehow divided. There are people who are really supporting the end of child marriage, particularly those who are sensitized, those who are attending those kind of the meetings, and some of them who are reluctant, looking at the way the UPEPO is going on, the way the waves is going on. So one of the impact of that is there's a number of discussion in our parliament. Yeah, I'm not so sure if the question of the youth engagement was directed to me, but
I think it was directed to Kenya, but if you'd want to answer that as well.
Yes. Yeah, in Tanzania, we had one program called Tuwezeshe program, which actually, even Kenya, that program was existing under the Akina Dada. That program actually was sensitizing youth, particularly girls, adolescent girls, to take action, doing advocacy, and even Ifome is one of the product of the Tuwezeshe girls. Yeah, so that they came together, worked together to advocate against child marriage. They have a number of projects, individual projects on ending child marriage, engaging policymakers, working at the community levels, work at the service deliveries in the different areas. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, very detailed. We can go to Kenya, Uganda. Just a note on the SADC model law. If you want to find out more information, please reach out to us as well. This model law was developed amongst the members from countries in Southern Africa, and it's a template which other countries can also use to be inspired on what they can include as part of their legislative advocacy or even within their programs. So it's available on our website, but also reach out to us in case you want more information. So thank you. Viola or Faith, who is answering on behalf of Kenya?
Okay, when it comes to documentation, in the Girls Not Brides Kenya, we have a monitoring, evaluation, research and learning subcommittee. It's not been really very active, but what we have been able to do is to have regular reflection meetings as a partnership, just to identify what is working for us, what is not working, and how can we ensure that we are working towards our objective. So the regular reflection meetings is where we are able to identify what can be replicated, what some organizations are doing that can be replicated in other counties. So that is how we learn, and we hope.
Is all this documented? Sorry.
We have reports.
You have reports. Okay.
Yeah, reports of the reflection meetings, and also when we have meetings, for example, with policymakers, we also have reports of those meetings. So those are some of the areas that we have done documentation. And just like my colleague from Tanzania, it's not an area that we have done so well, and it's an area that we hope to improve in the coming weeks and months. When it comes to challenges, I think I agree with him. Resources have also been a challenge. Kenya is vast, and the community-based organizations that we work with sometimes are not funded. They do not have the resources to either reach the communities or even sometimes to participate in activities at the national level or other levels where they may need to be there. So resources have been a challenge. We have tried to do resource mobilizations. We have applied for some calls, not successful though, but we are not giving up. We will continue. And just like what he mentioned about some organizations working on child marriage but are not within the network, but are, they have the muscle, they have, the relationship with the policymakers, but are not there with us. So that is also another challenge, to have everybody in the partnership. But we hope to continue mobilizing and having all the people working on child marriage come together. So yeah, those are some of the challenges.
So thank you. Moses, what do you want to finish?
They have talked about documentation, which I think is an issue they have cut across, but also, like she said, we do documentation, but also I think when we add documentation and sharing, I think those are different things. We have so many reports written and they are not shared, you see, and they remain among us ourselves. So I think it's something that probably would need more support, because some of the reports that we do for activities and meetings, engagements, they may not be to that level to be shared to the public. And I think that's something I think also we need to root for. They say, okay, if we have done some activities, what's that we can share and make sure that that comes out. But also our members have been able to share work, except maybe the times of COVID-19. But we have been able to organize some periodic Zoom meetings for the members of Girls Not Brides to be able to share their work and bring in some good learnings of what they're doing within their different areas. But away from the COVID and the restriction, we used to do the National Summit and create so many thematic spaces where members share their work and also document that through videos and as well as through the reports. I think something still need, probably put it right, that Girls Not Brides how do we support now the partnerships, the member organizations to do some documentation and sharing of the work so that the work is visible. And it gets so hard for us as the secretariat to get even information from members, even when they know that they're going to share their work, but it's very hard for them to send through the information. I think we need to increase focus on that. Then on issues of challenges, I think one of the big one, of course, people have said is funding. It's an issue, but also there's an issue of expectation from members. Members join and expect either somehow, somewhere they will get resources. If that's not there, they will ask, okay, what am I doing here? And that's a big challenge, and we have tried to always explain. Recently,
how do you meet that particular challenge so that we can all hear?
One of the things we have done is to continue conducting some refresher conversation with the members, especially the newest ones, to let them know what exactly we do and how they benefit from the alliance and how they can support the alliance, so that they're able to be able to understand. We are privileged. One of the grants that we had, we were able to do the member outreach in 2 regions and be able to sit in the room and have discussion about the national partnerships. But also the people that came on board in that space, also they expected still to be facilitated or to be given some resources as a network. But also the other issue also, I think that we also face, particularly with the Girls Not Brides. Maybe it's not be the issue with the consumer. There was expectation of how much is Girls Not Brides sending in for given campaigns. We have faced this much in the corridors as we talk to UN agencies, you talk to government, they say, okay, you are an international organization. You are doing this conference. How much is coming from your partner that we can match? And most times, if that's not there, then it is a challenge. Unless maybe if it was an open network, it would be easier. People would come in and support. But having a brand, which I think is also privileged to have, it poses that challenge of how much is actually coming in from Girls Not Brides. So I think it's all of us to learn.
Managing expectations.
Yes, yeah,
okay,
managing expectations.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything? Yes, Viola.
I think in terms of documentation, it may not be done per se as a partnership, but at individual level, organizations are continually doing documentation through, after you do evaluation, you share out the findings. There is the sharing of success story in the media, social media, or even, inviting the national media to cover events. So documentation is there and sharing of our learnings in the communities. So something else I wanted to add on the youth engagement. I think we've talked about how we capacity build the youth for them to gain the skills, knowledge, and confidence to engage their communities meaningfully. Apart from that, we also, are funded youth-led CSOs to be able to, practically do the work. For AMREF, we have what we call Youth in Action, Y-Act. I don't know whether you've heard it. It's big, and it's bringing youth voices together from all over the country to talk about issues that are affecting them. So it's a movement, and it's bringing change in the communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A second part, I think, to your question, if you allow me, was youth leadership within your coalitions. I know you talked about that it's happening, and maybe a challenge from her and from all of us is how do we elevate or amplify the youth leadership voices within our own coalitions? But you don't have to answer, it was just a comment. Thank you. Viola, we're about to close this session. There's a couple let's take a couple of more questions from the online participants, and one more from Jovin, and then we'll have a final round.
Thank you so much to our members joining us virtually. I see that we have groups joining from Uganda, Tanzania, and also Kenya. So I'm going to take about 2 questions. The first one is, how can an organization become a member of Girls Not Brides Network? Then the second one is, how can this initiative reach the young girls at local grassroots level? And then what are the drivers of child marriage, and what are the best strategies and approaches to end child marriage, and who is responsible?
That question is a whole day's discussion, but thank you for that. I think there was Jovin. Yes, and then we can. Sharon, please share the link to the membership page for the person who asked how to become a member. Thank you.
Yeah, firstly, I would like to thank you all who are here and the members who are joining us online. But I would like to quote this before I ask the question that I have. Is from the Bible. The verse says, wacheni watoto wadogo waje kwangu maana ufalme wa mbinguni ni wao. Yeah. So before going to heaven,
let all the little children come to me, and because the kingdom of God is theirs.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Why did I have to speak that? Because we cannot reach to the kingdom before we have this preparation hapa duniani. So I would like to ask a question. We have seen the challenge. They told us one of the biggest challenge, and we have seen it, all of us, is funds. Poverty is one of the things that cause child marriage. But also, child marriage is one of the things that cause poverty. So I would like to ask the panel, how do you influence the government to intervene in child marriage, because it's one of the factor leading to poverty? Because when we implement programs that are leading to end child marriage, we implement a lot of things, including education, hygiene, and a lot of things. So how do we push the government to intervene into this? Because we have seen into our countries, the government has like left this to the organizations. The government has not directly involved in ending child marriage, but it's just listening to the organization, what they are doing. So how do we push them, or how do we tell them, how do we? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a very strong question. Oh, there are so many hands. Okay, let's take the questions from here, and then that's the last round. I think there were 4 hands there. The last 4, and that's the final 4. Yes. And then yes.
My challenge to maybe the partnerships, how do we front our advocacy as having the face or visibly as a national partnership, as opposed to the individual organizations fronting our successes, our stories, and yet we're a national partnership? How do we have that as the face of the national partnership?
Thank you for that.
Yeah, mine was not really a question, but when it comes to answering, I wanted to give some input on the question you asked, how do you engage the government?
Can you hold on to that? We take the question, and then you will start with your answer. Thank you.
It's not a question, it was just an addition. First, I wanted to respond on someone who asked on the media engagement within the network. Sharing our experience from Tanzania, we work very well with the media and especially the community radios. Our member organization in different regions always working with community radios, and this became even more important, especially during the COVID-19 where we couldn't do the physical dialogues. We were working in close collaboration with community radios. But also we have the Tanzania Media Women Association, our members, but also we have other members who are also having media as their key strategies. We have, for instance, Uheso Radio, which is a community radio based in Shinyanga. They're also our members. So media have been our very key stakeholders. But also I wanted to respond on the issue of over expectation from members. For instance, what we do for us, we don't expect that members expect something from the network, but we create a culture of what everyone brings to the network and its value. For TCMN, we have a strategic plan. We had a 3-year strategic plan from 2016 to 2019, but now we are having our new strategic plan, a 3-year strategic plan. And what we do is, it was inclusive of all members during the development, taking different contexts and coming with collective approaches. And what we do as we fundraise for the whole strategic plan as a network, we also value member organization contribution, because members are working from different expertise. So we populated with the familiarization of the strategic plan, members can design the intervention to fit into the plan. So together we can, as a country, we can at the end sit and say, okay, we contributed this. And not only those things that all those interventions that we have done collectively as a network, but also the contribution of each member organization is highly encouraged and very important to make sure that members don't feel engaged, because what brings expectation most of the time is when you don't really feel actively engaged, then you will wait for something to come on your side. So let's work with the culture of more engaging, like what do I bring to the network? That should be the first question before even, I have had members hearing they want to join, how can I join Girls Not Brides? Now, what's your expectation while we are joining? Instead of expecting, then what am I bringing to this platform on ending child marriage? Thank you.
Thank you, Former. Very powerful. As collective action is what am I bringing to the network? Thank you. We'll take one more question and we'll come back for comments. Thank you. Asante.
Kwangu bila shaka, naitwa Fred Waisiko. Ningelipenda labda kuuliza watu wa Uganda na Tanzania vile wanavyofanya hiyo kazi ya kujaribu kutetea watoto. Kwa sababu Kenya utashika mtu alikuwa ameoa mtoto msichana, ukimfikisha kotini, kesi inaenda, at the end of the day unamuona ako pale nje anatembea, na labda hata mtoto bado amerudi kwa huyo mwanaume and nothing happens. Na ndio maana pia ningelipenda kusema kwamba hii meeting pia tungelikuwa na watu wa court ili kusudi tuwaambie kuna mahali wanatukosea. Unapeleka mtu kotini and at the end of the day mtu ametoka, mtoto amerudi kwa hiyo marriage and nothing happens. So ningelipenda kuwauliza wao ufanya aje. And at the end of the day kama kule kwetu utakuta labda msichana labda amechukuliwa apelekwe mahali pa kutunzwa. Na tuna hizo sehemu za kuweza kutunza wale watoto wasichana wenye walikuwa wameenda in marriages na zimekosa kufanya kazi. Okay. Mwisho nauliza pia tuna wale wasichana wenye alikuwa ameingia kwa ndoa na ikakosa kufaulu na yeye ni mtoto mdogo bado. Mnafanya juhudi gani za kuweza kuwasaidia ili kusudi maisha yao yaweze kurekebika, waweze kuendelea na maisha yao baadaye yenye yatakuwa ni mazuri kuliko kuendelea kuishi kwa maisha ya kimaskini na kutosoma na pia maneno yenye hayafai? Hilo ni swali lingine. Wale tumekuja hapa, tuko Uganda, tuko Tanzania na pia Kenya. Tutafanyaje ili kusudi iweze kuwa uniform? Kwa sababu ukifika labda mahali kama Tanzania, ukivuka tu mpaka hata kama hakuna chochote chenye kinaonyesha huu ni mpaka wa Kenya na Tanzania, utaona kuna utofauti. Utakuta mahali kama Tanzania watoto wadogo siku za shule wako kwa baa wanazungusha. Mtoto amebeba mtoto mwingine mgongoni na anauza njugu kwa baa. Kwa clubs it's normal to them. Tutafanyaje ili kusudi tuweze kurekebisha iwe ni watoto wa Kiafrika tunaongelea na tuwe na ule uchungu wa kuweza kubadilisha ili kusudi tusiwaone watoto wa kisichana wakiteseka.
Asante sana. So I'll translate. I'll attempt to, thank you so much for the question. So the first part is, how are you in your work working to champion the rights of children, especially through ensuring their rights? For example, are you working with the judiciary or with the court system? The second part of the question is, I think the cross-border, how are we able to support more cross-border work? Because sometimes you'll find, with our borders that you cross from one country and the systems or protection for children is different. How are you effectively able to do that so that we can become more East African unity, I think, in our work and bridge more of that. I think I've covered most of that. So then we can go, he had wanted to make a statement and then we'll go very quickly. I'll just give 5 minutes for each panelist to answer. You don't have to answer every question. I think if your colleague answers, you can go to the next.
So there was a very good question about how do you influence government? And it really is not complicated. Normally, the way it normally works is government is a primary duty bearer. The rest of us, we just complement their work. So government commitment happens in two ways. As Mildred had said before, when government commits itself to child rights, whether ending child marriage, FGM, and many other issues, it needs to domesticate. Basically, it means to create laws within the country and policies. And once a government creates a policies, then it has to fund the implementation of that policy. So what you need to do in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, first of all, is identify what your government has committed itself to. Once you do that, that opens the way in terms of how to engage them. Now, you cannot do this alone. So I would encourage our Ugandan partners. There are organizations like, for example, Uganda Child Rights Network and others, UCRNN. In Tanzania, we've got the Tanzania Child Rights Coalition. In Kenya, we have a multitude. So the first step is identify what are the commitments, and then build the capacity of your member organizations in terms of advocacy. How to recognize those commitments, and then how to engage in dialogue, constructive dialogue with the state. That's how you move around it. Because at the end of the day, you have to choose when to push very hard, you have to choose when to engage in constructive engagement. Now, Kenya, we've had successes, we're able to engage, whether it is on the reporting to the United Nations Child Rights, the United Nations, the UNCRC, whether it is a Universal Periodic Review, whether it is the African Committee, whether it is the African Union, whether it is the Maputo Protocol. So there are those processes which exist. And Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, all of them as countries have made their commitments. But you can only do that in coalitions. Government listens to the collective. The collective, you need to support each other collectively. And once you do that, then you slowly engage. But you need to have the capacity, you need to build the capacity of your membership. Advocacy can never be done by a single organization. Thank you.
I like that. Advocacy can never be done by a single organization. I think that's very strong. So to the panel, our esteemed panel.
I'd like to add to what Rebecca said, and it's about how do we engage the government to end for child rights movements. One of the things to feedback, I'll talk about the grassroots level, and that is engaging the area advisory councils, which is actually a child protection mechanism that is based at the county level, then moving to the sub-county, and even, the ward level, that kind of thing. So when you work with such a mechanism, which engage the education sector, the health sector, the courts, the police, the community, the elders, the youth, it has membership of all these people that are in the community. So when you empower them to know that they need to watch out and they need to coordinate the protection services of the children, then that is when you gain a lot. What we've realized is that this mechanism, when they are strengthened at the grassroots level, they're able to coordinate the rescue of girls from child marriage, FGM, bring the issue up, even support the court processes. So this is a very key mechanism at the grassroots. Let's not only look at the national level, but bringing the action at the grassroots level. Thank you.
Thank you. And to that note, tomorrow's session will be talking a bit about how do we work to influence different levels, including influencing government. So maybe your question will also be answered in addition to that. So thank you. Let's move on to Kashuma.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, just to add on influencing government, one of the things is see what the government wants look like. For instance, have we managed to show the let's say economic impacts of child marriage to our governments? The loss that the government is making by girls being married under 18 years old. Let's say when Euphemia is going to get the opportunity to meet Mama Samia there, how are you going to convince Mama Samia that child marriage is costful to the Tanzania? By the fact that, ma'am, what you're investing will become meaningless if the 31% of girls that are going to be married. That is easy. And, in the government, as you're saying, there are few individual powerful people who can make changes. And there are few people, we understand our government, there are things they can pass in the parliament. There are few individual people, if you meet them and you convince them, you can see tomorrow the law is changed. You can see tomorrow a number of things will be put into implementation. So those are the things that let's find a channel where we can take our things with a strong message. Yeah. Now we are constructing classroom everywhere. We are doing but girls are dropping out from school. So how do we relate that with the government policies and everything to make sure that they understand the thing and they are taking that at the agenda? Chifu ameuliza swali la msingi sana, and it's a very, very important question, particularly on access to justice.
Koshuma, kindly answer him in Kiswahili. Endelea na Kiswahili.
Endelea Kiswahili. Swali lako ni la msingi sana kwa sababu ni changamoto ambayo tunaipata wote kwenye nchi zetu, na kwa Tanzania sisi tuna program ya kuhakikisha kwamba haki jamii inapatikana kuanzia utoaji wa taarifa. Taarifa inaporipotiwa kwenye kituo cha polisi, inapokwenda mahakamani mpaka maamuzi yanapotolewa. Kwa hiyo wanakuwepo watu wote wale mpaka yule ofisa ustawi wa jamii. Lakini kitu kimoja kikubwa ndani ya mahakama, kuna swala la ushahidi. Kama hakuna ushahidi, mtu ataachiwa. Hiyo hakuna jinsi. Na ushahidi unatoka wapi? Ushahidi unatoka kwenye jamii. Na inapotokea swala la ndoa za utotoni kama ulivyosema mfano wako, au swala la ukatili, mara nyingi ndoa za utotoni za familia. Familia haiko tayari kutoa ushahidi dhidi ya mwanafamilia mwingine kwa sababu atafungwa. Kwa hiyo mahakama inaweza ikawa iko tayari kabisa kufanya kazi, lakini ikakosa mashahidi. Tanzania tuna kesi nyingi za wazazi ambao wamepindisha mpaka matukio ya DNA kwa ajili ya kulinda wanafamilia. Kwa hiyo bado kuna haja ya kuhakikisha kwamba jamii yenyewe inaelewa umuhimu wa kuweza kutoa ushahidi ndani ya mahakama, lakini pia na faida zake. Kwa sababu pia saa nyingine baba na mama wanafungwa, watoto hawaendi shule. Kwa hiyo jamii inaangalia kwamba naye ataangalia watoto. Na ukienda kutoa ushahidi, anakuja mnyanyapaa kwamba nyie ndio mmetoa ushahidi, baba yenu na mama yenu wakafungwa, sasa mtaishije? Kwa hiyo ni changamoto kubwa kwenye hilo eneo. Kwa hiyo bado tufanye kazi katika.
So a quick translation.
The other thing is, how do we assist the girls who are married under 18, under child marriage? We do have a number of programs, particularly the income generating activities. We do have a number of programs, particularly making sure that they are getting several training, entrepreneurship training, and some of them they have management to go back to school. So there's a number of programs on that. And then the issue around watoto, the cross-border, yes, I do understand that very much clear that there's a strong network within the two countries, not the two countries, even the three countries and all of the East Africa. For instance, when we talk about we are talking about children, but when we talk about the security, they always meet. I know the regional police commander of Mara and the courier side, they talk almost every day. The district commissioners, and when it comes to the security issues, when we talk about that committee who is governing there, they have very close contacts in terms of revenues, in terms of magendo yanayopitishwa kule and everything. So how do we channel our issues of child protection to them and see the consequence and let them take action? It's an issue. Kwa Dar es Salaam, I've seen that watu wameanza kubadilika. Mambo ya watoto kwenda bar, watu wanakuripoti. Kwenye big cities, watu wameshakuwa sensitized. There's a lot of changes. People, they will report you, and some of them they'll just ask you, what are you doing here? And wameanza hata kubandika mabango kwamba you can't come with the kids here. The kids can't do this. Kwa hiyo kuna mahali kuna mabadiliko kwa vijijini, we can still do that.
Thank you. So in the interest of time, I'll go to Lanoy and Moses just to answer this question raised by Mildred. How do you ensure that as a coalition you're speaking with one voice and not just the voice of one singular organization? So very quickly, since the rest have been answered, please answer that one.
Okay. So to ensure that we front ourselves as a partnership, we ensure that we have branding. So if we are going out as a partnership, then we use our logo as a partnership. Instead of having all the 100 logos, then we can use the Girls Not Brides Kenya logo to represent all of us. And also when we go for meetings, we talk on behalf of the partnership and not for your own organization, because when you're going there, you're going to represent the partnership and not your organization. So those are some of the ways that we ensure we are out there as a partnership.
Thank you. So branding and communications. Moses?
Yeah, I think I also want to speak on the branding, I think, and communication. I think that's key. But also there is a very big challenge in terms of ensuring that we all speak under the partnership, because different organizations that contribute to some of these engagements have donors they have to report to. So somebody says they have to report back to my donor. It must be seen to work, depending also how much I put in. It must be seen. I mean, my director will not approve. If it approves, there will be questioned. You say this event was funded by Organization X, but I don't see ourselves anywhere. So I think we need to move to navigate to see how do we keep the national partnership name out there, but as well as allow the individual organization to do their thing, because that's a live experience. Somebody will say this won't be approved by my supervisor if I'm not there, or if I don't see our logo. So somehow we cut corners, but I'm telling you it's one of the big challenge, and I'm keen to learn how some of you are doing it, unless the partnership has its own funds that you don't have to go to members to do collective work. And then if we don't do that, then we lose out why even we're coming together. So it's something we need not to be so much tight on, but a little bit. I mean, the network is as strong as the members, right? Not just a name, that it's a network. So I think it's a big issue, but we need to handle it case by case. If somebody says my logo must be there to be there, then you allow that happen.
Thank you so much. As you said, we will discuss. We're here for another, is it 1.5 days? So let's put that, and let's have this in our discussions. How do we effectively, you've raised something very important. How can we also fund the collective work? I know most donors do not fund collective work. It's very rare. So how can we then position that funding collective work is the only way to show impact? So another question mark for us. We've come to almost the end of this session. I know we are running away from time, and our afternoon session is extremely exciting, and we need to go for lunch. Hold on to that question. Final 30 seconds from everyone. I want everyone on this panel to make a commitment, a Power to Girls commitment. What do you as an individual, not for organizations, not for your countries, speaking as an individual, what do you commit to do to end child marriage? I don't want a paragraph. I want a sentence.
Yeah, for me, I think keeping girls that are close to me into this conversation, I think it's key. During the last summit, I took my 7-year-old girl and another 14-year-old girl to attend the summit so that they can learn and have experience and keep it going. And that's my personal commitment, apart from the other girls that I don't know that we work for under Joy for Children and Girls on Pride. So as a person, I think I will keep the girls under our care, or my care, to keep knowing about issue of child marriage and championing them.
Meskia, it is being, you have witnesses, so we shall hold you to that. Lanoe, please go ahead.
So my commitment is to ensure that I provide a platform to girls to be able to share their issues and even provide possible solutions that they feel, if implemented, their issues will be addressed.
Asante, thank you. Koshoma.
Continue mobilizing resources to improve the lives of girls.
That's a thing. Tumesikia. Okay. Viola.
Istamo said mine, but I'll change. So building a network of champions that are top clan elders, elders, women, the youth, to continue advocating to end child marriage and linking the champions and the communities with role models that have overcome child marriage and FGM and other harmful cultural practices. Thank you.
I love that, mentoring. Thank you. A warm round of applause to our panelists. Thank you for sharing very honestly, very candidly, without kujificha, some of the challenges, but also your lessons and your stories. The conversation continues. This is just the start. I'll hand this back to Mildred to take us through. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, can we clap again for this amazing panel and for the reader for moderating it and leading it. Very critical points coming out of there. You feel that we need the conversation to continue because you feel like you want to engage more and more. Thank you so much. What is coming out more clear to me is that this movement is extremely needed together, because you can't win this one alone. So as we break now, looking forward to the next session in the afternoon, it is occurring to me as I think about it that the work we do to end child marriage and FGM is like trying to snatch meat from the mouth of lions. Is it possible? Is it possible? Is it possible? You know, because lions are there feasting on our girls, they benefit from whichever way. There's poverty benefiting from it, there's patriarchy benefiting from it, there's everything benefiting from it. So do you guys think that together we can snatch this meat from the mouth of lions? Is it possible? It's been done before. Okay, I just want us to think about it. You picture lions feasting and you're snatching the meat from their mouth. Think about it as we go ahead. The afternoon segment is going to be extremely exciting. I'm dropping the mic. I won't have the mic. John is here. John, wave at us, please. John is taking up the afternoon segment. Please be assured that it's going to be fiery and energizing. So we have lunch for like 45 minutes. We have lunch for only 45 minutes. Actually, for more than 46 minutes. So go for lunch for 46 minutes and meet John here. Are we meeting here, John? We just go down. Which section exactly? Yes. There's an open field past the reception. Sharon assures me that if we leave anything in this room, it will be safe. Are we assured? Thank you, Sharon. Sharon is assuring us that if we leave anything in the room, it will be safe. To our colleagues and participants joining us online, virtually, we appreciate that you're joining us. We really affirm that you're with us in the space. There are segments that can be inclusive for those joining online, and then there are those that we are not able to do the same. So therefore, like for the afternoon, we are not able to live stream for them to come in and join online. And there are also some segments that become a bit difficult. So please bear with us. But all in all, we are appreciating the fact that you are working with us. I think after this, then our virtual colleagues will join tomorrow morning, right? Yeah? Tomorrow morning. So we appreciate and affirm you for joining us virtually. Good people, we have now only 44.5 minutes for lunch. Okay? Please stand up and clap for yourselves for a great start. A fiery start. As you walk out, John says right after lunch at 2 sharp, we meet him on that other side of the reception. There's an open field. Yes, Nolene? Oh yes, good. We have lots of material. See, we are talking about documentation. We are talking about sharing ideas. We are talking about exchanging. There is quite a bit here. Please pick the materials that you need, that suits you, please. You can take even more if you want to go to take home and share with others. Kindly please speak. So at 2 o'clock, we are meeting at the field. Right after lunch, we're meeting at the field, and we go on with the afternoon session. Thank you very much, people. You're absolutely awesome. Thank you.